My name is Dacre Stoker. I'm the great-grandnephew of Bram Stoker, who's the author of Dracula. I'm the author of Dracul, along with J.D. Barker. You're listening to Horror Film Face-Off.
The Longbox Crusade presents an action film face-off holiday special, Horror Film Face-Off. This episode is 1995 versus 2007.
Two scary films enter.
One scary film leaves. Ah!
2 men enter, 1 man leaves. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. 2 men enter, 1 man
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, then go out and get what you're worth. But you gotta be willing to take the hits.
Welcome to our favorite time of the year at Action Film Face-Off. It's time for Horror Film Face-Off. This is a show where two random years are selected. My brother brings one horror film from his random year. I bring one from mine. Those two films do battle using a variety of criteria. Champions crowned by the end of the episode. I am Jared Ulrich, the Death Probe. My co-host is my brother Jason, the Weasel Skull. We are both military combat vets who take our actions seriously, but not too seriously. So let's have some fun. Let's carve some pumpkins. Let's eat some candy corn. I don't care if you don't like it. I like it. Over to Jason.
Yes, indeed. We're going to score each of today's films on a scale of 1 to 10 in 5 categories. What are those categories? It's the story. It's the overall spectacle. It's the best horror scene. It's the hero and the villain. And just because it's Halloween doesn't mean we're going to put it in the right order. You still got to figure it out. Just follow along. You can do it. We believe in you. And we will have at the end the deduction round, where up to 10 points can be subtracted from the film's total for whatever we determine is the low point of the movie. So, yeah, if we think maybe early 1990s computer-generated effects were up to par, maybe it'll go in that category. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. All right. Thank you, Jason. And of course, we are joined by a sniper, and the sniper has 1 point to give in each category. So the sniper can sway the scoring to a total of 5 points. Let's meet our sniper for this episode. He is no stranger to Horror Film Face-Off. It is our friend from the Real American Headcast and several other Headcast shows as well. It is Aaron Headless Moss, since it's Halloween. Welcome back, Aaron.
She just flesh, Swanee boy. No.
That's your favorite line, wasn't it?
It was. I don't know, but that line just made me crack up. I love it. No, thank you for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to be back.
Well, we like having you here around the spooky time of year. You kind of dig the horror films. We dig the horror films. It all works out.
Yes, it does.
I believe this is your third horror film appearance with us, I think.
I want to say so.
Anyway, I tried to make the question, like the first time was, what are your three favorite horror films? And I tried to make the questions a little more pointed each time. So this time around, I figured since we were going to do a little Spanish zombie flick, I thought, you know what? Zombie flicks. There's a lot of them. What are your top 3, Aaron?
Probably the original, was it Night of the Living Dead? Romero's,
yeah, it's classic.
Classic. Shaun of the Dead.
Also great.
And I forget the name of it. It's the more recent, the last decade or so. It's the zombie one where they're set in the mall. Night of the Living Dead remake.
Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, there you go. That's what it was.
Yeah, we covered that one this year, didn't we, Jason? We did Dawn of the Dead versus Dawn of the Dead, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yeah, we sure did.
We did the 70s
and we
version.
Said, man, this would have been great for a
horror film
face-off.
So, those are good choices.
The randomizer chooses, man.
Yeah. Yes. Sometimes when the randomizer chooses and you see the films reveal, you go, we have to pick these two films. All right. Now, before our two films enter the videodome arena, which Jason decorated with like that fake cobweb stuff, it looks really nice.
Oh, that was fake.
I just haven't cleaned down there for a while. Really what it boils down to.
They're actually cobwebs. All right, we're thrilled to kick off this episode with special shout outs to our Crusaders Club members. These are the fine folks who've joined our crusade. They get early access to special Longbox episodes. They get to vote on show content. They get entered for raffles. And most importantly, on this time of the year at Horror Film Face Off, you get a Halloween themed name. I did that thing that I always do, and now we're going to read them. These are the folks who are giving some much appreciated support to the show.
Alan W. right into a vat of acid.
Angelica, werewolf. Ow.
Auburn Elvis rises from the grave.
Bill Paul Bearer.
Billy D. And the D stands for death.
Bradley Deathlow.
Braxton 6 Feet Underwood.
Carrie, covered in pig blood.
Clinton Grave Robertson.
Captain Entrails P.
After Dark, Clark Westfield.
Dave Collins, Meat Wagon.
Eric the Dark Cleric Hodges.
Eric, Derelict Porter.
Ezra Gallo, Rooster of Death.
Cockadoodle Die. Gary V, and the V stands for Vampire.
Gene Hendrips Blood.
George Meal of Brains.
Gerald Gangrene.
Heinz K. And the K stands for Killer.
Jason is keen to stab you.
Jason Lady in White.
Jeff Pohl, through the chest, here.
Jeremy L, and the L stands for Lab Rat.
Jim Head in the German, Jim Head in the German. I hope you like Jim Head in the German too.
Jim Mill of Brains. He went for seconds.
Joe Wolfman Conan.
Joe Thomas, a.k.a. Joe October.
John Watt, son of Frankenstein.
Josh Strickland, Principal of Pain.
Candace, Insanity Ward.
Decapitated, Kathy Bright.
Matt and Lissy, Poison.
Mark of the Beast, Ross.
Max, fell in the well traver.
Murderous Michael Minton.
Miranda W. And the W stands for Witchcraft.
P.D. Devons. And the P.D. stands for Probably Dead.
Paul Hicks, and he loves Tremors.
Rick from Jeff and Rick presents Jeff's Dead Body.
Rotten Ronald Easterday.
Rotting Rob Morgan.
Samantha Maniac.
Sean, Urban Skinned Alive.
Spidey, 67 Ways to Die.
Spreadsheet over course.
Steve Cronin.
Tim Vincent Price.
Tony Penheadton.
Toronto Wolfcop.
And if we missed anyone on our list of Halloween horror names, we apologize. Please keep in mind we record these episodes well in advance for release, so if you're reading this edition, we will fix that next year in October. So something to look forward to if we miss this year. But again, if we did miss you, we do want to know about it so we can fix it on our other shows. You can do that by sending an email to contact@longboxcrusade.com. We'll get it straightened out. If you're asking yourself, how do I become a Crusaders Club member? Simple. Go to patreon.com/longboxcrusade for as little as $1 a month. You'll get access to the amazing world of the Crusaders Club. Come and check it out.
All right, that's enough of these raisins. Let's throw these boxes of raisins out and get to the good candy and get back to the combat and learn a bit about the film Frighteners, about to battle for your pleasure.
For this episode, I was assigned the year of 1995. I selected Lord of Illusions. What year did the randomizer select for you, Jason?
I got 2007, so I'm putting into our Videodome Arena Rec or REC, short for record, on the old camcorders that you may or may not recall.
Okay, fine matchup, folks. It's important to point out that this isn't Jared versus Jason. We each had to select from our assigned here. I might very well like his selection better than mine or vice versa. This is all about us discussing beloved horror films and coming to a consensus on which one is this episode's champion. Time for a quick around the room on how we saw it. I have both of these on my Plex. Have had them forever. Jason.
Lord of Illusions, I saw it on Tubi, and I watched it with the commercials because that was the easiest way. And for Rec, I rented it off of Apple.
You remember what the going rate was?
$3.99, I believe, to rent it.
Okay.
So
All right,
$4. Got my $4 worth, I think.
All right. Aaron, how did you watch these two films?
I haven't watched them yet. I need to do that real. You must.
You can use context clues throughout this.
I'm pulling a Jared card. No, Lord of Illusions. I originally first saw it on VHS when it first came out.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, so many years ago. And then I rewatched it on Max, I want to say.
Okay.
And then Rec, I watched on Tubi.
Oh, nice. Okay, folks, this is your spoiler warning. If you've never seen 1995's Lord of Illusions or 2007's Wreck, now's a great time to pause and go watch them because we're going to start spoiling things at the other side of this musical break. All right, folks, welcome back, and let me jump in with some quick information on 1995's Lord of Illusions.
Something is watching. Something is listening. Something is coming.
How would you like to see the world the way it really is?
What's going on here?
Detective Harry Damour is walking a path.
I want you to help me. Will you take the job, Mr. Damour?
Where do I sign up?
Between what can be seen.
People are dying here. I want to know why. I've heard a name. Somebody they talk about in whispers. Who? Nix.
And what must be feared.
Nix is dead and buried. What the hell is wrong with you people?
Haven't you seen enough to know that doesn't matter?
Now,
I don't want him getting in the way. We've always waited too long to have the homecoming spoiled.
every step he takes.
The drone, the dark side. Don't like that.
Not much.
It's your destiny. Accept it.
Brings him closer to the truth.
You could get into people's heads, make them see things. Terrible things.
See, that's his best trick. No illusions, just the truth.
If Nix is back from the dead, then he is some kind of a god.
In a world where magic is real, death is the ultimate illusion.
I was born to murder the world. Are you ready for my wisdom?
It's not real.
You want to come with me, Damour? I've got so much power to give you. All you have to do is beg.
Clive Barker's Lord of Illusions.
Your cast and crew is as follows. It stars Scott Bakula, Famke Janssen, and other folks that I was too lazy to write down. It was directed by Clive Barker. I think he actually wrote this one as well. And here's your synopsis for this film. Scott Bakula plays a hard-boiled detective who kind of dabbles in the macabre, and he gets linked up with this case where, magicians are doing weird things. Is magic real? Is it not? Are there demons? Who knows? We'll get into it. There's your summary.
That's a pretty good summary, actually. Probably better than mine. I wrote it out.
Spoiler, folks. I didn't have anything written down. Just made that up the top of my head. Your trivia is as follows. Item number 1. When casting for the film began, Clive Barker picked Famke Janssen's photo out of hundreds of initial submissions and declared this is Dorothea. She remained the only choice, although the filmmakers auditioned dozens of actors for the part. So Clive Barker has a true affinity for Famke Janssen, just like I do. Item number 2. The scene when Nix gets inside Swan's head in the cultist compound was actually never used in the theatrical version of the film on the grounds that it slowed the pacing of the story. Later, it was reinserted in what they call director's cut. But much like Aaron, I picked this up on VHS back in the day, and that scene was in there. So I think it was pretty much any home video cut you got now has that scene back in. But if you saw it in the theater, you didn't get that one. This is my favorite piece of interesting trivia. I always like alternate casting. The reason that one of my very favorite actors, which is Scott Bakula, is starring in this film is because another one of my very favorite actors turned down the starring role in this film, and that was Mr. Christopher Reeve. He was originally offered the role that Bakula picked up. And I was like, man, this was pretty close. I did a little behind the scenes for the trivia. I was like, this is actually pretty close to his accident. And yeah, this movie came out in 1995, and Christopher Reeve's accident was in May of 95. So had he done it, this probably would have been his last big theatrical film.
Or possibly, if it was that close, it may have saved his life.
Yeah, you never know. All right, now let's kick it over to Jason, where he'll have a much more professional summary, I'm certain.
Well, I have a summary. I don't know. It's professional.
Well, out of the two brothers, I would say he's probably the more professional. But that's just my dealings with you.
Just guessing.
Just my dealings with you over the years on my G.I. Joe podcast. So.
All right. Now I'll give you fine folks the rundown on 2007's Wreck.
Hoy, mientras usted duerme, vamos a acompañar a una dotación de bomberos en su recorrido nocturno. Espera, corta aquí.
Vamos.
Venga, más agilidad a esas piernas.
Más grave de lo que parece, ¿no?
Bueno, ahora nos lo vamos a encontrar, ¿no?
Bueno, entramos.
La vieja vive en el primer derecho. ¿Qué ha pasado?
Mari Carmen, que es la mujer que ha llamado a los bomberos de la policía, dice...
Señora, estése quieta. Señora.
Lo tienes.
Lo tengo.
Es que están muy mal.
Y nos van a seguir diciendo que no pasa nada.
Oye, tú deja de grabar de una puta vez, joder.
Por otro lado, ha ocurrido algo inesperado. Puede contagiarse.
Enfoque a través de la fatiga.
La situación es insostenible. Hay 2 muertos.
Vamos a salir de aquí por mis cojones.
Casted and crew, and I'm going to apologize up front because I'm going to butcher these names. It always seems to happen that I get the international film with international stars. I'm not intentionally butchering these names. I'm just really that big of an idiot. So apologies in advance. Here we go. Cast and crew included Manuela Velasco as Angela, Ferran Terraza as Manu, Jorge Yaman Serrano as police officer Joven. It was directed by Jaume Balaguero and Paco Plaza. The synopsis goes a little something like this. Angela and her cameraman Pablo are journalists for the television show While You're Sleeping. They chronicle the lives of professionals who work while the city sleeps. Tonight, they are documenting a team of firefighters on the night shift. When the team answers a mysterious call to an apartment complex, what started as a dull night becomes anything but as the team and the building's denizens find themselves in a quarantine lockdown while a virus transforms them each one by one into murderous zombies. A couple of nuggets of trivia include, number 1, the film was made and shot at all real locations. No sets were built for this film. Number 2, none of the actors were given full scripts. They had no ideas of the fate of their characters until the day they filmed the scenes. That made them nervous and edgy, which is what the directors wanted. And that kind of feeds into bullet number 3, because the directors also wanted to avoid well-known actors. They wanted the cast to be unfamiliar to the audience to increase the "it could happen to you" effect. And now that we have the basics, on today's contestants...
Ladies and gentlemen, test your might. Let's get ready to rumble! It's street fight.
Oh, man, here we go. Now, real quick, folks, just a reminder that we have 2 films in 5 categories, and Jason and I can match up to 10 times. So play the game within the game. Play match game, and guess how many times Jason and I are going to match. Since Aaron is here live, if you had to guess, Aaron, 1 out of 10 times, how many times do you think Jason and I's scores are going to match?
I'm going to give it 8.
Oh, nice. All right. And speaking of scores, let me set your score barometer. We do a 1 to 10 here, and 5 means it's okay. It's something you'd see on a decent made-for-TV movie on a rainy Sunday night back in 1984. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Got yourself a pretty good film. 4, 3, 2, 1. You got things to work on. With that, let's get in round 1.
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Round 1 is the story. How engaging, original is the story? We will start with Aaron Moss and his thoughts on the story of Lord of Illusions.
Well, you've got Dr. Sam Beckett, Jean Grey, and Dr. Mindbender in a movie. You can't go wrong. And it's a story written by Clive Barker, a master of macabre and horror and all sorts of weird demonic whateverness. So the overall story I really enjoyed. I thought it was very, I don't know if it's, you can say original, since I'm not mistaken, it was based on one of his books, but his book was original. So no, I thought it was a very good story. Again, it's kind of a John Constantine Hellblazer type story. I wasn't reading Constantine at the time, I don't think. Maybe an issue here or there, but I wasn't into that one. So it wasn't until later that I really made a reference to that. But yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed. I thought it was very engaging. And like I say, yeah, it was based on a Clive Barker novel. So it's original.
I concur wholeheartedly, and I want to see what Jason has to add.
Yeah, I think the thing that stands out to me is kind of the world building here. I think we kind of scratched the surface of something maybe a little that Clive Barker maybe had even deeper in his imagination. I don't know if there was more than one book in this series, but I really got the sense you could build a world here where you kind of start at the surface level of the private investigator, and then it goes a little bit deeper into the world of illusions. You start going into that performance level magic, and then you find that there's an even deeper realm where you're dealing with dark forces and really the unknown. And this movie does a really good job of kind of taking us down each step to the climax of the film. And I just thought it was really well paced. It kept me hooked. It's like, where is this going? It would shock you at moments, shock and surprise you. And then it would, slow it down for some tender, intimate moments. It had a compelling cast of characters. And overall, I think as far as horror film scripts go, this was a really good one.
I concur. I think there's a lot of levels to this one. I think it has a little bit of humor to it. I think it has a lot of dark, scary stuff. I think it's got investigative things. It's got, like you said, the surface level of magic with the fun magic guys. And then once you get past the fun magic guys, it stops being fun real fast. So, yeah, it's a movie that just kind of keeps giving you one thing after another. And I really appreciated that.
Yeah, it was interesting. Really, it had a blend of the hard-boiled detective, had kind of an X-Files vibe to it to me. And it didn't escape my notice that X-Files was really big in the same year that this is out. So,
Interesting. Well, let's move the clock forward a little bit to 2007, and let's take a look at Rec and go back to Aaron's thoughts on Rec. What you got, Aaron? You don't have to do it in Spanish if you don't want to.
Good, because I took 1 or 2 years of Spanish in high school, and yeah, I can get drunk and go to the bathroom.
All right. You don't have to speak another language to do that.
Mucho más cerveza, por favor, señorita.
Está al baño.
It's a zombie movie, basically. It was an interesting approach. Not a huge fan of the found footage type where they're following the camera around, because I think it's a little forced sometimes. I enjoyed the Blair Witch and enjoyed a couple of others, but yeah, that was part of my problem with this one. We'll talk about later, I'm sure. Is that sometimes it can feel a little forced. But ignoring that, I thought it was a good premise. I mean, yes, it was basically a zombie movie, as we've said, but it was an interesting take on the way they did that and the whole origins of it. And again, that's one thing with the zombie movies is, well, how did they become zombies? How did this start? And I like the way they addressed it in this movie. So I thought it was a good movie overall.
I agree with you, Aaron. One of my favorite things about this movie that kind of, I think, elevated it slightly above a typical zombie movie was I thought it was neat how they worked in the sort of demonic possession angle. Like that's where the virus we warned you about spoilers, folks. You find that out at the end. But I thought that was kind of a little creative twist. Oh, that's interesting. I've never seen that before, and I always appreciate that. But let's let Jason speak on that, or whatever else he thought of a rather simple story. But what else you got, Jason?
Yeah, first off, I'll say that I kind of run hot and cold on those first-person camera shooting things, like Aaron was saying. It's kind of hit or miss for me. I was not a big fan of Blair Witch. I got caught up in the hype, and then when I watched it, I just was thinking, like, I'm just feeling nauseous watching these folks run through the woods. This one was different for me, though, and I think it was because, number one, they really contained it in the building. The building gives it the sense of it's a horror event that's isolated because of the quarantine, and you're stuck in that building with them. And that building gets progressively smaller and smaller as more and more of the people in the building become zombies. And so where you start off, you've got like the whole building, they're down on the ground floor and they have access to everything. It starts getting cut off more and more. It's like, oh, now there are 2 zombies behind this door. And oh, there's a zombie somewhere up here on this floor. And we've got a zombie now chained to the stairwell, that if I'm going to go up or down the stairs, I got to get around this person, because apparently when you secure zombies, you use 18-foot chains. I don't know. That part didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but I digress. To me, if I'm comparing these 2 films, where the first film, as I said, was kind of about world building, this was world containing. It's really a pressure cooker. It puts you in this zombie. It's like, okay, you can run from zombies, but you've got parameters. You can only go this far, this high. You can only go this wide. And that's what really made it an intense viewing experience for me.
Oh, and by the way, one of those rooms that you retreat to has something even worse inside.
Right, which you find out in Act 3.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I think we've had a good discussion around these stories. Interested to see where the scores land, so let's find out. Jason, Lord of Illusions, 1 to 10. What do you think?
I gave it a 7. I thought it was a really solid script. Like I said, it laid the foundation for some world building, and I'm kind of surprised there wasn't a sequel or 2 to it.
I was slightly more taken with it than you. I gave it an 8. I just thought I haven't seen anything quite like that before or since. Elements from other things, but sort of all in that one package. I thought it was just a real unique story, and it's Clive Barker. The man gave us Hellraiser. He knows what he's doing. Okay, let's go to Rec 2007. Jason, 1 to Diaz. What are you going to score it?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Siente. I gave it a Siente as well. Like I said, a little bit different of a flavor, faster paced a little bit. Simple, but effective. 7 for me.
Wholeheartedly agree. Match game number 1, 7. Which takes us to Aaron, the Headless Horseman Moss. And what are you going to say is the better story between the 2 movies? Where's that sniper bullet going, my friend?
I'm going to have to give it to Lord of Illusions. Clive Barker, I mean, again, The Wreck was basically a zombie movie done nicely, but still it's a zombie movie where Lord of Illusions, it's a Clive Barker joint. So, I mean, yeah, how can you go wrong there?
Can't fight that. And that's the end of round 1.
You want to know what happens to an eyeball when it gets punctured?
All right, I'll pick it up here for round 2. And in round 2, we're going to discuss the hero, the protagonist. And we'll start it off. We'll talk with Aaron. What did you think of the hero, Scott Bakula, Mr. Detective D'Amour in Master of Illusions?
Again, like Jared said earlier, I'm a big fan of Scott Bakula. I love him in Quantum Leap. Again, my wife and I, another friend, do a podcast on Quantum Leap. So I'm always talking about Scott Bakula. I've seen a couple other films he's in, and you can't go wrong with Scott Bakula. It'd been interesting to see Christopher Reeve doing that. I think he had a different twist, but I like Scott Bakula. I know it's something my wife has always asked over on our Quantum Leap show, because there's a lot of episodes where he takes his shirt off, and she's like, were they trying to make him a sex symbol or something? He's a good looking guy, but he's not all of that. And I kind of felt the same way. I kind of saw that here a little bit. It looks like, they're trying to sexify him a little bit, trying to beefcake him up, if you will. And again, I'm not into that whole thing, but I think Scott Bakula is a fantastic actor, and I think he did a great job on this one.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. And, Jared's little factoid that Christopher Reeve was another choice. I mean, these are two characters that kind of, I think of being like clean, wholesome type of roles. It's interesting putting them in something this dark, and it works for whatever reason. It just works. Jared, what do you think?
Not a ton to add. I love Scott Bakula, just like my boy Aaron. It's my favorite TV show of all time, Quantum Leap. So there's going to be homer points involved. That's all you need to know.
All right. So let's move it over and talk about Rec. What do we think of? We had Angela, and we had, I think Pablo was the cameraman. Good 1-2 team. What did you think about that there, Aaron?
I like Angela. Again, as we may have, if anyone listens to my G.I. Joe show may know that I'm a bit of a sexist pig. So again, Angela was hot. Give a shout to Kevin there.
Caliente.
Muy caliente. She was a very beautiful woman. Pablo, I think he's about as useful as on a boar.
I have things to say about Pablo too.
Well, Pablo's carrying that camera the whole time. Come on, let's get some love for Pablo.
And see, that was part of my problem with Pablo, is that there's all these zombies running around. He keeps that camera. He's running backward. No, the guy, I know it's for the movie. The way the movie's recorded has to have it, but throw the damn camera down and run like a mother. Then when they're looking for the, the keys. She's looking one there. He's got a camera looking at a desk. Well, maybe it's in this desk. Well, go take a look at it and see. Don't wait on the Jesus.
Don't film it. Look at the drawer.
Yeah. So this one here, I'm a little mixed. Fair. I thought Angela was a fantastic character. I loved her. I thought she was beautiful. She did a great job. Pablo, I didn't mind when he died. Spoilers.
The one thing that I liked is Angela had, she kind of had that young news person where she really wanted something to happen. And boy, did she get it. And you kind of see there's a little poetic justice in my mind of what happens to Angela. Anyway, but I'll let Jared talk more on that. Agree, disagree? Any other thoughts?
No. Again, you guys covered just about everything. I'll just give you a spoiler on top of spoiler. If you decide to watch the Rec series, you have not seen the last of her, by the way. What? She might have got drug off into the darkness, but you never know what the demon had planned for her.
Yeah, see, the segment's on Tubi also. I started to watch it, and I had to go do something, so I didn't get a chance to watch it. I need to jump back and finish it.
I want to say there's 4 of them. I saw 1, 2, and 3, and I don't think I've seen the 4th one. The 3rd one is definitely the one that's most different, but it's fun in its own way. But anyways.
They're all good, though?
Yeah, they're all entertaining, for sure. They're all entertaining. 3 is the oddball, but it's still entertaining. But anyway, back to the hero. She was cool. I liked the other quote-unquote heroes, like the cop, and there's one cop who was a little bit of a leader, and there was like a fireman who was a bit of a leader. And it's always neat to see those kind of folks kind of step up when something like that happens, true leadership emerges, not just positional leadership, right? So that was fun to watch as well. I think, everybody at some point was like a protagonist, and some of them turned into antagonists, but like just really well done, especially with the cast of unknowns.
Yeah, I thought the chemistry, the chaotic chemistry, if you will, was great between the whole group, and maybe that was the payoff, as we said, of the directors intentionally keeping them in the dark and hiring some unknown actors who were great at improvisation. Good points all around. Let's score them and see. Jared, what did you give Scott Bakula for Masters of Illusion?
Lord of Illusions, Scott Bakula, I gave him an 8. I love Scott Bakula whenever he's doing anything, so he's a solid 8 for me.
Yeah, match game number 2, and I'll say I kind of surprised myself on this one, because at first, when I saw Scott Bakula in this, I'm just like, I don't know if having that clean-cut character is going to work in a Wes Craven dark horror arc, and he made it work. He didn't try to be something that he's not, which was what was really interesting about it. And I thought, really, the mark of a good character, a good hero, is I want to see another story with him in it. I want to know more about his backstory. I want to know more about that tattoo on his back. I want to know more about what's the road that's got him to be this kind of cult detective type of role, a Dylan Dog or a Fox Mulder, if you will. So yeah, it was surprising for me. Went a long-winded there, but just thought it was interesting, my thought process to come to this 8. Well, with that, what are we giving Angela, Pablo, and others in Rec?
I'm actually gonna give her and others. I feel like the others elevated. We've talked about sometimes it averages, sometimes it elevates. I think it elevated, and I'm happy at a 7.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I thought it was solid. Everybody did a really solid job in selling their characters. I wasn't really interested in anybody's backstory like I was with Scott Bakula, but great job all around. So I landed on a 7 as well. But it doesn't end here because good old Aaron, he's got a sniper bullet to give, and I'm curious. Let's find out. Who are you going to give it to?
See, if it was just Scott Bakula versus Angela, I forget her name, the actress's name, against them, it'd have been closer. But Pablo, a millstone around her freaking neck. It just drags her down. Again, I love Scott Bakula as an actor. He's a great guy. And I love Angela. She's a beautiful woman because, again, I'm a sexist pig. But, yeah, with that anchor around her neck of Pablo, him and his camera, that sniper bullet's got to go for Scott Bakula.
All right. That's a wrap, and that ends round 2.
That means it's time for round 3.
You hang up on me again, I'll gut you like a fish.
Round 3 is the villain. How menacing or entertaining, how memorable is your villain? We will start with Jason. Let's talk about Nyx and his crew of ne'er-do-wells in Lord of Illusions. Jason, you get to go first this time.
Well, you've often said that the mark of a good villain for you is if you're going to remember the name after. And there have been some action film face-offs where I've forgotten the name of the villain, between the time I watched the film and recorded this episode. Not so with Nyx. Nyx was interesting. Again, another character where he was almost kind of like a good old boy redneck type of dark cleric. It's a juxtaposition, right? Like we talked about with the hero with Scott Bakula, that kind of clean cut type of actor juxtaposed against this dark universe. And you kind of have this seem like a good old boy type of character that is this dark Lord of Illusion, right? And has all these powers. There's something that's really creepy and just off-putting about that kind of good old boy smarm that he seems to have to some degree, and then that evil that drips out of him. Really powerful performances, and you really only see him at the beginning and at the very end, but his presence is there throughout the entire film, which is just really good storytelling and writing. So well done in scripting a good villain, and the actor did a marvelous job of portraying him. So good work in my opinion.
And he's a good actor because in like 2 years he's going to start being George's boss on Seinfeld at Kruger's Industrial Smoothing, and he's hilarious.
I wonder where I saw him. Yeah,
he's so funny in that role too. It's the best part. Let's go to Aaron and his thoughts on Nyx and company.
Yeah, Nyx, played by Daniel von Bargen. He's one of those that. Yeah, same thing. Jason was saying, I know I've seen him somewhere. He's one of those guys that he shows up in a lot of different things. And I couldn't remember where I saw him from, but I know that I've seen him in a lot of stuff. I know I have. So yeah, no, he did a fantastic job as Nyx. Yeah, like Jason said, he's kind of a country good old boy Satanist or something. I thought he was very memorable, very. Yeah, I see. I love the way I have in my tag there. You should just flush, Swanee boy. I just love that line, the way he delivered it. I thought he did a magnificent job as the villain in this.
Yeah, I'm just gonna jump on and say absolutely. And I want to give a shout out to his believers. They're all a little memorable to me as well. Like, I think that is an incredibly haunting scene when the call goes out for reunion and they basically just murder their families. And
yeah,
I was like, God dang, man, when that little girl dead on the floor, man, that's hard to watch. Like, his little cult of believers really elevate him, but we'll get back to that when it comes to.
Oh, and real quick, I was going to say that when he comes back from the dead later on, again, spoilers, with his face all kind of messed up with the whatever it is on it. He kind of reminds me a little bit, I think, of Palpatine from Star Wars, the original ones.
Good.
Kind of that look to me.
You want this, don't you?
All right. Well, speaking of makeup jobs and villainy, let's shift gears to Wreck 2007. Jason, zombies, creatures in the attic. What do you got, man?
Man, this was a little bit different because there is something that's lurking out there. We don't know what it is. We all just recently, survived a pandemic of a virus that, we didn't understand. We knew something was happening. We all know how scared we were during that time. So that's something that resonated with me as I'm watching these folks. Is they're like, something's happening. We're getting quarantined. Is there something that's infecting us? Is this what's causing people to turn? What is happening? It kind of peels back like an onion. And I'm watching it and I'm wondering the same thing. Early on, when they start talking about who's who in each apartment, and then they just kind of talk about, oh, there's somebody who lives in the attic, but they're never there. Like, I was like, oh, okay. I didn't even think anything about it. And then they get into that place and you're just like, oh, crap. This is
not an improvement over where we were.
Yeah. This person is not getting their security deposit back. That's all I'm saying. So it's interesting because we don't have a character like Nyx here that's a good versus evil thing. It's not till the very end that we see like this could be even deeper and more metaphysical than we first suspected. And by then, we're all out of heroes. So we're just left to wonder. So it's an interesting use and kind of a very unique villain category, I think, this time around.
Aaron, what do you have to add?
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with Jason that, there's not really a villain per se in this one. The villain is zombies. And again, it's zombies. I mean, yes, they did an interesting take on it. And again, they started off, well, it's a biological thing making the zombies. And then we get the twist at the end when they get to that apartment. Oh, maybe it's not a biological thing. Maybe it's a demonic possession that's somehow infecting, causing other people to get infected and becoming zombies. So I thought that was an interesting twist on it. And it likes a little addition to make it so it's not, oh, it's just a biological thing, or it's all possession. It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And, Jason said, you're not quite sure who started it. That one lady was blaming the Chinese family, and kind of racist the way, she was to me at least came across. Well, it's their fault. It's, then come find out it's her daughter that's, the one that was infecting everybody. Again, spoilers, started it. And she's like, no, she just got tonsillitis. No, she's a zombie.
It's never tonsillitis in those movies.
She's a zombie. Give it up. Just bash her head in. But it was an interesting twist on the whole zombie thing, I think.
All right. I think we should score them. Let's go back to Lord of Illusions in 1995. Jason, Nyx and Company, scale of 1 to 10.
I gave Nyx a 7. Like I said, very interesting, very engaging, well written. We don't see a whole lot of him except at the beginning and in the end. But we do see his followers, and through the action of his followers, we kind of get a sense of the character that's lurking in the shadows throughout the entire movie. So I landed on a 7.
Match game number 4. I think I would give Nyx himself, a cut above TV movie, pretty solid, maybe a 6, but his followers elevate it to a 7 because it'd been many years since I popped in the old VHS, like Aaron mentioned, and watched this movie, and I remembered just about every one of those followers. I was like, they did something right there.
Yeah.
All right, let's go talk about zombies. 1 to 10, Wreck.
I'm at a 7 on that one as well. To me, it was really the mystery. What is going on here? And the sense of urgency that you have while trying to solve the mystery. Because, like I said, you're just running out of heroes here. You're running out of people. It's like sand in the hourglass. And then at the end, in the third act, when they're revealing the apartment, I'm like, why can't I read Spanish, man? I can't. There's tons of clues here, and I can't figure any of it out.
My subtitle thing translated some of the.
Mine too. Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah, it did,
but not all of them. Only like key ones, right?
Right.
Yeah. I gave it a 6. I'm 1 lower than you. Like I said, I'd seen it before, so I did the old. What do I remember? And I'm like, I remember that really creepy, bony girl in the attic. So that's solid. But I know she didn't show up to the end. And then it's zombies. So, I mean, they're cool, but I'm at a 6. So we're going to have to match all the way the rest of this episode to make Aaron happy with his guess of 8. But speaking of Aaron, which movie do you think had better villains?
Zombies by themselves isn't that high, but the twist they did with it brought it up a little bit. As we talked about, Nyx is fantastic. So again, just the two alone, they're pretty close. But again, Pablo and that millstone around his neck just drags everything down. I'm going to have to give my vote to Nyx because, again, he was just a memorable villain. And, again, he was a villain, whereas the zombies, yeah, they're bad guys. They're evil, but are they really villains per se?
They're victims, really.
Yeah, so that brought it down a little because they're not. I don't really consider them villains for the most part because, yeah, they're all victims of, it's whoever, this demon that we don't really find out much about except for what we can find out in that what was a scientist's apartment, whatever it was there on the the top floor. But maybe if he would have shown up a little bit more and actually done some villainous stuff, maybe. But yeah, no, I got to give it to Nyx.
Okay, that's the end of round 3.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Well, I will pick it up for round 4. And in round 4, we're going to talk about the overall spectacle. So how engaging is this film overall? We're talking about, the stunts, the effects, cinematography, soundtrack, musical score, all the stuff that makes a movie good or a good movie great. And we'll start with Jared on this one and see what he thinks of the overall spectacle for Lord of Illusions.
Yes, indeed. For spectacle to me, it's hit and miss, but it's a lot more hit than it is miss. Everything that they did practical, I thought was hit. I immediately think of the Sword of Damocles trick, and the swords dangling and falling and how cool that looked and painful that looked and all that stuff. That's a great practical effect. Everything they did that was practical was cool. We alluded at the very opening of the show about the CGI of 1995. I didn't think it was awful. The fire effects, moving fire around was fine. The fire breath was cool. I don't know how useful it was at the end, but the fire stuff was okay. The polygonal things that they were doing, the very PlayStation 1 era graphics things, okay, I'm not too mad at it because it's 1995. I didn't think that was too bad. Again, more pluses than minuses there when it comes to the effects spectacle. I definitely want to shout out Simon Boswell, who did the score. Very haunting, very sort of ever-present, really pushing up the creepy moments and action moments. I think Simon Boswell, whose name I had to write down because I didn't know him from anything else. I was like, this guy's did a great job, and I'd never heard him, so that's not fair. So I got to shout him out on the show. Maybe someone else out there goes, oh, you're an idiot. Simon Boswell did this, and this, and I just don't know that. That's fine. But I was just really impressed with his musical score here. I thought makeup effects were good. I thought everything was shot well. The visuals were great. The effects were great. For 1995, aside from some PlayStation 1 era graphics, I think this was a pretty solid looking film.
Well, Aaron, Jared's trying to butter me up and talk me out of deduction round stuff for the effects. What do you think? You agree with him? Disagree?
Jared had it pretty much down. Yeah, no, it was the practical effects in this was fantastic. The CGI computer effects, it was 1995. Yeah, the polygon, a lot of it, you could kind of see the green screen or whatever behind it, or was digitally placed in there. It was kind of a little bit, but I think the practical effects, like Jared said, outweighed any bad of the computer graphics of the time. And yeah, the music on that was fantastic. I was just looking up and seeing what the music guy did. And he also did Hackers and The Crying Game, a couple of big movies also.
Yeah, strangely enough, I have not seen either of those two films.
So
I know they were big in the 90s, though.
Yeah. So yes, I know I was scheduled to, those are the ones I recognize offhand that he worked on. So I mean, yeah, the music was fantastic in this. If they would have had today's computers, it would have been a whole lot better, of course. But yeah, with what they had, yeah, no, I enjoyed it. It was good.
All right. Looks like we got some consensus on the spectacle here. Let's move it on over and hand it back to Jared to talk about Rec.
Well, you're not going to get a lot when it comes to score because I don't think they scored this movie because it's a live shot thing, right? So music is not really a factor. And I still think the movie does really well because we talked about sort of the found footage and all that. And Jason, you're absolutely right. When I saw Blair Witch, nauseous. For some reason, I do better with Rec. It didn't make me as nauseous or headache. Although part of me I know has learned my lesson, because as I'm watching it, when things start going real, that's all I can say. That's how I describe it. When that happens, I'm smart enough to look away. I did quick glances to kind of see what the action's doing. But this is a spectacle movie, especially once it's like, hey, audience, this is a zombie film. And it goes pedal to the dang metal and does not relent. And the filmmakers didn't think they had to make some master open. This movie clocks in at like 80-something minutes.
Yeah, it's tight.
Yeah, it's tight. Like you get it. They do just enough setup in the beginning to where you get invested in Girl and Pablo and the firefighters. We all know the other shoe's going to drop, but everything is just enough. Pacing. That's what I'm looking for. The pacing is perfect. It just continually presses down the accelerator all the way to the end. And that's the real source of its spectacle. And oh, by the way, lots of practical in-camera effects that they're having to pull off by, changing makeup while the camera's not on them for single shots. Shout out to the actors. We talked about this. When you think about how they had to basically, everyone had to give a good take all at once. If one person screws up the take, they got to do it again because it's all in one shot. I'm not saying the movies one. You know what I'm saying? Certain scenes.
Yeah. There are scenes where there's a lot of energetic, frantic dialogue back and forth.
Yeah, moving pieces and people are applying makeup when they're not on camera. It's like all kinds of stuff. And wow, to pull that off to the quality level they did, that is impressive.
Yeah, I agree. I felt like it was kind of like, when you get on that roller coaster and it starts and you're going up slow, pop, 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 pop. And then you're like, man, I'm kind of up high here. And then it just, it releases you and you're doing loop-de-loops and corkscrews. And then at the end, you're just like, I'm ready to get off this thing. Aaron, what did you think?
Yeah, no, you guys have both, said everything about it. I mean, yeah, it was very, like Jared was saying that, it kind of started off a little slow, getting us, introducing us to the, to the reporter and the fireman that she's with, and the whole premise of her show, and then Pablo. Anyways, and then just kind of pick up speed. Yeah, and the special effects in this.
I think you're jealous of Pablo. That's what I think. I'm starting to.
It's a toss between being jealous and annoyed because you got to hang out with a beautiful woman, but he's an idiot. But that's another story entirely, and that's for the story. So, anyways, but no, like I say, it was 2007. I mean, they didn't have to deal with 1995 effects, so they do have a stand up on that. Yeah, better effects, better, like Jared was saying. Yeah, they're pulling people out, camera pet makeup on them, getting them back on, and just the whole. Yeah, it was just a spectacle of itself, and it just kept moving and going and building upon itself. And spoilers, it's gonna be close on this one.
Yeah, I think your spoilers summed it up pretty good, at least with my scores as well. Speaking of, it's time to score them. So, Jared, what are you going to give the spectacle from Lord of Illusions?
I gave the spectacle a 7. I thought for 1995, pretty good. Most of that 7 is for the practical effects and the score.
Match game. I gave it a 7 as well. The CGI effects, I kind of love them. It was 1995. They were like, let's play with this stuff. This is avant-garde. It's revolutionary. It's just like, it doesn't hold up, but the practical effects do. That early scene when he goes in and sees the mutilated, still alive victim at the fortune tellers, and then he gets into that fight with that dude. That's a brutal fight, man. And they're just throwing down. There's some other good practice. That Sword of Damocles was really cool. And I'd say 80-90% of this thing is practical effects all the way through. And the practical effects are darn good. So 7 from me as well. What about Wreck, Jared? Would you give the spectacle for Wreck?
I gave it a slight bump. I gave it an 8 just because of the pure amount of effort that they had to go into, and everybody had to hit their mark, and everybody had to give a good take, and all that in-camera practical effect. I don't know how much CGI is involved in that movie, but I don't think it's a ton. And I think it's a lot of practical, so I gave it an 8.
Well, old Aaron's still in the hunt here because I gave it an 8 as well. Same thing. It's like I said, for me, the spectacle was about the pacing, man, and the pacing was perfect. It was a tight movie. For me, it's like, how visually does it engage me? Like we were saying, with action film Face Off, how much am I feeling like this fight scene or this action scene is pumping me up? And then for the horror film, it's just like, how tense am I? How much am I feeling like I'm on a roller coaster? And I was feeling like I was on a roller coaster for about 80% of this movie. So that was an 8 for me. And one last bit of business, because we still got the sniper. Aaron, you indicated this is going to be a tough one for you. Have you made a decision?
When I watched them and the entire time I've been talking, I've been kind of weighing back and forth. Because, I wish I could divide this bullet in half and give them each half. But because, again, over on the Headcast Network.
Halvesies.
Fine halvesies. I know that's for Bowden here on the Longbox Crusade.
We can't do fractions, man.
But yeah, no, it is very, like I say, because again, the CGI kind of drags down Lord of Illusions a little bit. And to me, the found camera stuff kind of drags this down a little bit because, again, it's spot that seems a little forced, especially with closer to the end. He's still lucky.
Pablo, man.
Yeah, Pablo, man, he's ruining this. That kind of drags it down for me a little bit. But yeah, the practical effects, because Jared said there's probably not much special effects in this one. It's probably all practical, I would imagine. But whatever it was, it was fantastic. Even as I'm talking, I'm still trying to decide on which way to go because it's very.
He's filibustering, folks. I can tell.
Yes, I am. I'm going to be a politician and filibuster my heart out. No, but I think I'm going to have to give this one to Rec just slightly, just because again, just the practical effects was a little better. Again, a little more current, and just the whole, like you guys said earlier, just the whole spectacle of it brings it up just enough to slightly, and I'm talking just slightly, edges out Lord of Illusion.
Oh, I could see the look of pain on his face as he made this decision, but decision he did make. So that means that brings us to the end of round 4.
That must mean it's time for round 5.
They mostly come at night. Mostly.
Round 5 is usually best action scene, but we're going to do best horror scene for Horror Film Face Off. But that doesn't mean Jason isn't ready with his great scene descriptions. Maybe he is. Maybe he isn't. Oh, we never know. Oh, I see papers.
Ready.
He's got papers. All right. Jason, let's lay out.
Thank you.
Let's lay out the key action scenes from Lord of Illusions.
So the first action scene right off the bat, horror/action scene, is where we see Nyx, and Nyx is initially captured. So I call that one Capture Nyx, or if you prefer, in today's market, that house is $250,000.
It's one of your better ones. I like it.
All right. So
there's nowhere to go but down.
So the second one is when Scott Bakula is tracking his original person who goes to get his fortune read, and then he finds the fortune teller, stuff all stuck in his neck and stuff. Pretty gross. So I called that one Fortune Teller, a.k.a. looks like someone drew the death card.
Nice.
Third one was the dropping the sword trick, and I included his investigation down below where he gets ambushed by the two guys and has some. I thought that was really cool. Anyways, so I called that one dropping the sword trick, aka someone's got some trunk in his junk. Because there was an elephant trunk that ran through his midst. Yeah, got some trunk in his junk.
I would have called it God Damocles.
Also good. I was really proud that someone's got some trunk.
I like trunk in his junk. I'm with you.
That was very nice, Jason. I like that also.
He's doing well tonight.
Yes.
All right. So the next one, and I didn't really understand this. This is where the illusion attack after he's shagging Famke Janssen anyway, I call that one illusion attack. Or I got two because one's kind of edgy. You may not want to use it. Might be edgy. The edgy one is for my next trick. My going to disappear and Famke Janssen.
What else you got?
No. Okay.
I for one approve of that. But again, saying much.
The other one is I ain't afraid no ghost.
All right, that one I cannot have to bleep out.
Okay, gotcha. The last one I couldn't come up with a good one. I meant to come back to it, but I didn't. It's the final battle against Nyx. Need some help here.
I would simply call it well. Because you got dropped into the.
That's what I thought of that one, but it wasn't technically a well. It was.
Yeah. I don't know. Earth, wind, and fire, mostly earth.
I like that one.
All
Earth,
right.
Wind, and Fire, mostly Earth.
That was good. That was good.
Okay. Those are the ones for Lord of Illusion.
Okay. Which one's your favorite, Jason?
I like that drop into the sword trick in the following fight. I thought that was my favorite scene.
Very memorable, that's for certain. Aaron, what's your favorite scene?
I like the last final battle, the well. But no, I'm gonna have to go with the same one that Jason said, the whole trunk in the middle or whatever, trunk in the junk.
Trunk in his junk.
Yeah, what is there you go. That's what it was. Yeah, no, that was fantastic. Yeah, I like that one.
I'll join you guys on that one too, because when I look at the box art for Lord of Illusions, the first scene that comes to mind is the swords dropping into the guy. And then it's followed by a pretty cool little action scene underneath the stage, as we mentioned. So yeah, we're 3 for 3.
Yeah, that was the scene I remembered. I'd seen it in 95 and I couldn't remember hardly anything about the movie, but I did remember that sword dropping scene.
Just a honorable mention though to the final scene, because it was just so it was so nice to watch a lot of those turds from his cult get their comeuppance, but unfortunately like a lot of them got it at once by getting stuck in the mud type of deal. I would have loved to see Swan and D'Amour just kill all of them.
I was hoping for that too. I was hoping for a bigger battle
because they deserved it.
In fact, that may have brought that end battle up to a more winning position if they would have taken them out instead of the bad guy killing his own people off.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But
all right, well, let's look at Wreck from 2007. Jason, like the last half of the film, is that what you have? I don't know how.
Pretty much. Well, and I'm sure I missed some stuff here because it was so crazy. The first zombie attack with the lady in the apartment, that was kind of like the first one. I called that one. I know we're in a zombie outbreak and quarantine, but this is a nice apartment, and I know there's a vacancy. What's the rent? I mean, the utilities, are they provided?
He kicked the last one off with a realty joke.
The realty jokes are landing, I can tell. More of those. So the second one, I was thinking this was the one where you had the 2 zombie patients that were in the gurney in the other room. And so that CDC guy or whatever they're called in Spain and
say.
That's good. And the 2 kind of leaders were back there, and the cameraman's Pablo is useless again. But then they start to mess around with the zombies, and the zombies attack them, and they escape. I called that one after action review. When securing zombies, use handcuffs that are less than 18 feet long.
Benchmarking.
just for future reference. The third one that I thought was kind of interesting, when the kid attacks, and I kind of spoiled this one, Jared. I told you this one before. I called that, AKA, that kid's either possessed or American.
Because we have bratty children.
Yeah. And then number 4, I called when they were down to the final 3. You got Pablo, you got Angela, and you got the firefighter. I called that one. Even I remembered where that apartment was they were looking for. I didn't have to go down to the mailbox. So I just want to point that out. Like, I have some skills that I might survive a zombie apocalypse because I can remember. It's like 5th floor in the corner. Anyway, and then finally the attic, and I couldn't even think of a funny one. I just said, I can't take much more of this. The last one was so intense for me. I almost had to pause it and take a little break.
I know it went from like action scary to like psychologically creepy and scary. Come on, man.
Yeah, they shifted gears. Like, boy, that's effective though.
All right, which one was your favorite?
The last one. I couldn't take much more of this one. It was like, I mean, again, it's a really good sign when I'm just like, I'm so ready to get off this ride right now.
Yes, it reminds me of the time I was playing Fatal Frame on PS2. It's one of the scariest games I've ever played, and I literally had to pause the game because it was stressing me out. I was like, I gotta pause. And then those bastards over at whoever made that game, it'll come back to me in a minute. If you leave it on pause for more than a few seconds, bloody handprints start showing up on your television screen. And I'm like, come on.
Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, you ain't getting a break, son.
Oh, come on. That's how I felt, too. I'll agree with you. Fighting a bony chick in the attic apartment I was ready to be done. What about you, Aaron? Did you have a favorite horror scene from Wreck?
probably where Pablo died. Never mind.
Hey, that's the same scene Jason.
Oh, yeah. Technically, I wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't because of him dying, but yeah, no, that was that final scene at the Boney Check.
And that was a neat effect because at that point only he could see using the night vision. So that really made it even more limited and creepy. But all right.
Well, as they're doing that, I'm thinking, well, we can see what's going on because the night vision camera. But I'm putting myself in Angela's shoes, and I'm like, oh crap, yeah, she can't see what's going on. She's relying on what he's saying. And in the dark, you're fighting zombies, so there's zombies around, and in the darkness, you can hear stuff, and even if there's nothing there, houses and apartments tend to shift and settle a little bit. So you're hearing all this other stuff going on. You don't know what the hell it is. So yeah, that makes it additional.
And your life is completely dependent on Pablo.
And she died. Why'd she die? Because she had to rely on Pablo.
All right, let's get some scores of the books. Jason, Lord of Illusions. We both really like the sort of Damocles. He got a trunk in his junk, as you said. 1 to 10.
I gave that one a 7. I thought it was solid. I mean, it matched the overall spectacle of the theme throughout the film. Not enough to bump it up to an 8 or 8 or a 9 for me, but solid 7.
Match game number 7. So it all comes down to this last one. Aaron, let's find out what Jason scored. The very final scene that was absolutely stressful and wreck. Jason, what do you got?
Okay, comes down to this, and we may differ on this one because I thought about it, and like I said, to me, so what makes a good horror scene is, do I want to run out of the room screaming at any point? And I wanted to run out of that room screaming at a couple of points. I mean, I'm just going to recap. I'm going to set, for the audience who hasn't seen it, it's like you're being chased. Everybody's a zombie now, but you and Pablo. And we all know what Aaron thinks of Pablo. So you and Pablo are stuck in an attic. Everywhere else you can go, there are zombies. And then you find some possessed creature in said attic. And oh, by the way, you can't see because it's dark. So only Pablo can see. You're just seeing glimpses of this thing running around. Man, that is intense. I'm setting all this up because I'm going to say, from a horror perspective, this was memorable. This was something. God help me. I never want to ride this ride again. And I'm so glad I wrote it. It's a 9.
So close, Aaron. You're so close.
My life story. So close, but not quite there.
I gave it an 8. You were 1 point away from nailing.
I was so close to scoring it at an 8, but then I was like, is this like this was?
No, I track you.
And I think Jared originally gave it a 9. Based on how close I was, no, I gotta drop it down one just to mess with Aaron. The hell with Aaron.
But there will be Aaron vindication in the near future. There will be some Aaron vindication, I assure you. Speaking of Aaron, which of these two movies do you think had better horror scenes?
Again, it was another toss-up. It was another close call. But yeah, and especially sitting here talking, I was going to give it to Lord of Illusions just because, Scott Bakula and Jean Grey is hot. That's another story entirely. That's nothing to do with this, but I just had to mention that. But the more I think about it, the more we talk about that final scene in Wreck with, and then from Angela's point of view where, she doesn't know what the hell is going on. She was relying on this useless guy, Pablo, came along for a set of keys. Sorry. I got to give it to Wreck. Well, just barely out, but yeah, Wreck gets it.
Okay.
You got to say for Pablo, though. I'm going to defend Pablo for a moment, man. He's a master of his craft because he did not put that camera down. The light and load for running.
I don't know about that. We'll talk about that shortly.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Anyway, that's the end of round 5.
I just can't take no pleasure in killing.
Time for the round for the ridiculous. It's the deduction round. Now, I've been hinting that I might have some things to say about Lord of Illusion. But before we get to me, I'm going to pass it to Jared and see, do you have any airing of the grievances?
For Lord of Illusions or for either film?
Either film.
Okay. I just want this moment of vindication for Aaron Headless Horseman Moss on this episode of Horror Film Face Off because I filled my form out much earlier today the listeners can't see this, but you guys can see that bottom box across the bottom is for deductions, and only one of them is filled in right there. And it says -1 Pablo on my form. And here's why. It's slightly different from Aaron, that he was generally useless. What drove me nuts about Pablo is a professional videographer. His only job is to film stuff. And like what you would expect from a novice, or, you know, if it was me or Jason or Aaron, you know, we were filming stuff and zombie things happen, you'd expect us to, the camera to go all crazy, shaking. Now, professional who does this for a living would do much better shots, even when weird stuff happens. But not Pablo. As soon as something exciting happens, Pablo might as well be, you know, just shakety. He's like, come on, like, give me one steady shot of craziness that's happening, and he can't do it, and it drives me nuts.
Why?
Like I mentioned earlier, I have to look away at certain points because I'm like, Pablo, I get it, it's scary and it's frightening, but do the one job you have, which is when everything's fine, he does great camera work. As soon as something scary happens, Pablo just turns into any one of us. So how do you get that job? Why?
Because Pablo's useless.
He went to the Bourne Identities School of Filmmaking.
That is it. That's all I got. -1 Pablo. I just wanted Aaron to feel the vindication that this was completely done earlier today. He had no idea this was on my sheet, but that is my only deduction.
Yeah, no idea I was going to hate Pablo so much.
Well, I was teasing that I was considering taking one off for using poor computer generated effects in Lord of Illusions. And I thought about it, and I felt that is unjustified at the end, because, like we often say, you got to think about the zeitgeist of the time, right? CGI was a new thing, and everybody was trying it. I will argue with you that that's what makes 80s films better generally than some of the 90s films, because they didn't have the CGI. So everything had to be practical. There are just so many CGI films. I'm thinking of Brotherhood of the Wolf was one we did for Action Film Face Off.
I remember.
Really great practical effects in there. And then a CGI lion.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, maybe. But, you know, without them trying these things, then there are no CGI films that are really good today by today's standards. So you got to give it up to them for groundbreaking. The actors were also newly trying to interact with an imaginary effect. And you could kind of see that with Scott Bakula, like trying to shoot at something. And it's like, wait, the thing's over here and he's reacting over here. It's not really lining up. But you had to go through those things, I think. So at the end of the day, I decided, no, I'm not taking any points off of Lord of Illusions.
Good man.
All right, then. That is the end of our official rounds. Now, don't you worry if you haven't been keeping up with that math at home, folks. We do that for you here at Horror Film Face Off. Let's check in on Match Game real quick. Much to Aaron's chagrin, we matched 7 times. He was so close with his guest of 8. So Jason and I matched 7.
So far away. Again, my story. It's kind of my thing.
If you were playing at home and you guessed 7, though, congratulations. Now let's look at sniper points. Aaron gave 3 of his sniper bullets to Lord of Illusions and 2 to Wreck. And I'm going to let y'all know that's going to make a world of difference. This is one of those episodes where the sniper determined the fate of the outcome. And looking at the judges' scorecards, the winner of this episode of Horror Film Face Off with a score of 76 to 75, Lord of Illusions.
Pablo!
Pablo que lastima!
Pablo ruined it. Pablo shot him down.
Well, congratulations to Lord of Illusions. Now let's head over to the randomizer and find out what the years are going to be for our next episode. My brother Jared will be pulling a film from...
Choose your destiny.
1977, and I know we've delved into that year before.
We are running out.
And I will bring a film from...
Choose your destiny.
2023. So I can bring anything, and I guarantee you Jared has not seen it.
And I will hate it.
What will those films be? Well, we'll tease them on social media for those of you who want to watch before listening. And we're thinking of you on this one, Dave. Or you can tune in next episode and find out. Until then, I'm Jason Weasel Skull Albrecht, and you can find me on social media at Jason Albrecht on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads.
And you can find me, Jared Albrecht, the Yard Sale Artist, a.k.a. Death Probe, at Yard Sale Artist on X, Facebook, and Instagram. Aaron, where can people find you?
Facebook, I'm at Headcast Network, and also you can look for G.I. Joe. My main website is for my podcasting stuff. It's headcast.headspeaks.com. If you go to headspeaks.com, that's my personal website, which has a link to my podcasting, but to avoid my insanity as much, go to headcast.headspeaks.com. I'm technically on Twitter or X and Instagram and all those, but I don't really do a whole lot on there. I should be better at it, but I'm a horrible, horrible person.
And no one's going to debate you, but no, he's a good dude. I love his G.I. Joe content. Check out the Real American Headcast for your G.I. Joe needs. He's got some really good guests. And Brad.
And Jared shows up sometimes.
I do show up.
When he can be bothered to read the material. Never mind.
Well, it's the whole other thing. Anyways, be sure to check out all the shows under the Longbox Crusade umbrella by subscribing to Longbox Crusade on all your finer podcatchers, or you can go to YouTube, or you can go directly to www.longboxcrusade.com. If you want to send a question, a comment, you want to weigh in on your horror film of choice, Lord of Illusions, Wreck, or anything you want to talk about, you can reach out to us at Longbox Crusade on X, Facebook, Instagram, and, of course, YouTube. This particular podcast has its own X account. It is at AFFO Podcast. If you want to hit that one up, we'll chat with you there as well. And as usual, for all the shows on the Longbox Network, you can give us a voicemail, 707-532-5269. That's 707-532-LBOX.
Pick up the phone.
The spooky version. Yeah, leave us a voicemail. Tell us whether you like Lord of Illusions or Wreck better. We'd love to play it on the show. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you listening. Until next episode, keep your silver bullets handy
and your garlic fresh.
The intro and outro theme to this show and all of our Action Film Face-Off shows are done by musical genius Joe November. Check out his SoundCloud at JOSEFLIN99. You will not regret it.
I don't know if he can rise from the grave if he's not really dead.
Well, I thought Elvis was, or are you implying that Elvis is not?
Elvis isn't dead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we know this.
Whole other show, whole other topic.
Oh, sorry. Conspiracy film face off.
Or maybe he's a zombie and it would fit right into today's.
There you go.
Yeah, Bubba Hotep. That's right.
Yeah, good movie. Anyways.
Ezra Gallo, Rooster of Death.
Cockadoodle die. Sorry, crack myself up.
That's a good one.
She's gonna blow him away.
You're supposed to let me finish it off.
And Jared, I want you to know that you are not a weirdo.